Calculated. Calculated.
Hello guys, welcome to Senior Cut. Today I will be treating on how to cut your airline gown, the perfect fitted airline gown. So do not forget to like and subscribe, share too. So I will see you in my next video. Thank you. So back on track, we have our materials ready. Don't mind my ruler, like I made it myself, but it's very convenient for me. So I have this zipper that I got with the material. It's very foreign and I want to add it to the back. So I'll be showing you guys how I add it later in the video. Now we'll go ahead and arrange our material and be ready to make our basic measurements. The basic measurements, we already know that it is the armpit, the bust, the underbust, the waist, and the hip line. I'm sorry that my video couldn't cover the length of the clothes, but I made the length that's 5. I wanted it to be a very short gown, so that is why I made it 35. So this is the armpit length and this is the bust area. Bust area is usually 2 inches below the armpit level. So I'll mark my underbust. My underbust is 14 and a half. So I'll mark my waistline. Waistline is 3 inches below the underbust. Then I'll also mark my hip line. My waistline is 17 and a half. The waistline is just above your belly button, and the hip line is exactly where your hip started making a curve. So I'll go ahead and mark it. I usually make 2 dots before drawing my line because I want to make sure that the line is very straight, because most times if it's not straight you end up stretching yourself because you'll be confused and asking yourself where is the mistake, because the inches might not be rhyming when you are making the measurements for what you want to cut. The shoulder is usually 7, but I added 1.5 inch. 1 inch for because of the type of hand that I want it to have. I want it to be having a kind of shirt hand, and 1/2 inch for the sewing allowance. Since I'm not using a pattern, I'm drawing it directly on the clothes, so that is why I'm added all the inches that I need at the moment. So we already know that the armpit line is 8, the half of 8 is 4, and I'll mark. So guys, the half of 8 is 4, so I'll go ahead and mark my 4, and at that point where I have 4, I'll take in 1/2 inch. That 1/2 inch I'll be connected with the line on top. I minused 1 on top because I want the shoulder to be curved. Usually because the shoulder is always curved, but it depends on how broad that person's shoulder is. So I'll minus 1/2 inch and I'll connect that part that I minus to my 1/2 inch that I took in at the dot of 4. That's the 8. That's the half of 8, the armpit line. I had to make sure that I show you guys the labeling so that you will not be confused. Remember that the bust area is different from the armpit area. So my bust is 34. And 34 divided into 4 is 8.5. So taking 8.5, I usually mark my bust area at this I usually mark my bust area at this armpit level, because I don't want a case where after curving the armpit line, the armpit where after creating the armpit curve, my brow will be showing, like the armpit side of my brow will be showing, because I know for certain that it will be having a cup hand, a very short cup hand. So that is why I make sure to mark that part. So after that, you go ahead and use your French curve if you want, but I preferably use freehand sketch most of the times. I don't know if it's because it's what I was trained with. At the point where I will be creating the neck area, usually your neck has to be 4. It depends on how wide you want the neck to be, but I usually make my neck 4. And the shoulder is 3, so at that point I'll be marking my 3 to make sure that everything will be rhyming. So I'll be making my shoulder to start from 5.5, because you want it to have a wide neck, just as you see in the picture I'm showing above. So now we're marking the depth of our neck. Now it just depends how much you want yours to be. I usually I made this one 2.25, because I want, after doing everything, it to be rhyming at 2.5. I don't want it to be so deep. I want it to be looking like a little bit turtle, but not too turtle. So after that, I'll go ahead and create a curve. Now there's a point where you create a curve, and when you get to there, you just have to use your landroid. At that point is 3 inches. Like, you make a 3 inches line, and once you get to the 3 inches line, you now create a line. Remember, a straight line. Now next is the darts. We are going to be creating a very simple princess lat. I didn't want to make it so detailed because my fabric is small. So yeah. So guys, I cannot say so much. I can't say it because it will make the video too long, but if you really know how to create your princess lat, that will be very, very easy for us. I measured my nipple that is 4, but I added half inches because I'm not using a pattern. This is the main cloth that I'm sewing, so I'm not using a paper. Most people usually use paper to create a pattern before cutting, but sometimes I don't use pattern, so I created it directly on the fabric, because I didn't want to waste paper. It's not that so much detailed. That is why I didn't use my paper pattern. So you go ahead and create your princess lat, and this is the process of me creating it. Okay guys, don't mind me going back to the neck to start pointing whatever I'm pointing there. Usually one of my students asked a question and I was explaining it to her. So this is creating our princess lat. I don't know why my line was just disappointing me. Like, it's not looking straight. I make sure that, you see the reason why I usually say that I make sure that I use 2 lines when creating a line. I use 2 dots when creating a line, like a line with my ruler, because most times I end up being confused what was wrong. It seemed like I later fixed it somehow, but I understand that even if I don't fix it there when cutting it, I will, I don't know, my hand is already straight. So yeah, this is us still on the princess lat, but I'll still create a video on how to create the princess lat. So I'll make it very detailed, but to save time so that the video will not be too long, that's why I didn't casually explain how I created the princess lat. So after doing that, we'll go ahead and cut. So this is how I cut the neckline. At that point, remember to make it a straight line after the 3 inches. You can see how I just that's the main aim of having a pattern, but it's already easy for you to do whatever, manipulate whatever you want to manipulate. Yeah, sometimes after doing most of these, I usually use my scissors to, create the curve. The human body is not that very straight, like there are curves everywhere. So most times during the cutting, I create my curves myself. Like it's not that I'm creating a specific curve, just like I make it more detailed, and I don't make everything a straight line except for the darts area. Sorry guys, I skipped the shaping side because I was actually recording, not knowing that my camera was not recording it. But it's still not a big deal if you know how to make. I already showed you guys the basic measurement, the basic lines that you need. You just have to trace the line, you have to trace the curve down depending on the person's measurements. So I created a notch at that point where there will be a curve because I didn't want to kind of start stressing myself. You must create a notch so that you'll not be confused. So this is me creating the back part of the clothes piece. Like I wanted to record this back part is not like every normal back that you see, because I'll be tracing the dart to the shoulder instead of the armpits. So I trace the dart to the shoulder instead of the armpit. I preferably made the dart after cutting. Should I use preferably? Yeah, I'll just say preferably made the dart after cutting it for a reason. It was actually for a reason. Yeah. So this is me carving. Yeah, so after creating the cup, we go ahead and create that. Like that is very simple to create. You just have to measure for mark your four. Then from the four, you create a very straight line down to the hip. I also labeled it so you guys won't be confused. So I traced the line down to the hip from the bust line to the hip line. So from that, I'll just create a line to get the shoulder.